All right, a very happy Wednesday. This is take two. Don't you love when you do a 12-minute video and it freezes up on you? That just makes my day. Hopefully everyone is great out there. We are going to be talking about the player participation policy rule that is likely going to get approved by the Board of Governors. I have an article up on ESPN.com taking 11 questions, going in depth with each question, everything you need to know, why it's enacted, who's it impacted, what's the fines going to be, are there any exceptions? You can find that on ESPN.com. I think you'll enjoy it. It's not over your head. You won't walk away thinking like, oh boy, what did I just read here and how can I understand this better? And we're going to do a little bit of a video. I always say short video turns into 12 to 13 minutes, and we are going to do it. Here's the ironic thing. I'm wearing a Newman football shirt, and as you can see, the Celtics, right? I just can't escape the Celtics from my life here. So here is something we're going to go talk about. The one misconception regarding this player participation policy, we're eventually going to call it this PPP, is that this has to be collectively bargained between the players and the NBA. If you're doing a true or false question, that would be false. And I've heard it a lot within the past couple days. This will never get approved. The players will vote this down. That is not true. This is not a collectively bargained issue. There is no ramifications to the player, only to the team if they rest in a nationally television game, right? The team can't get fined $100,000 and then turn around and fine that player here. If there were implications to the player, then this is going to would have been collectively bargained between the players here. So let's throw that out right now, okay? Who does it impact? The league lists the criteria as a star player, okay? That's basically 11% of the league. So it's 49 players entering the 2023-24 players. Here's the criteria. If you are named All-NBA or earned a spot in the All-Star game in the past 3 seasons, you qualify. Ben Simmons, you qualify. Mike Conley Jr., you qualify. There are 49 players that qualify. If you are named to the All-Star game during the current season, you now qualify. Tyrese Maxey is named. Mikal Bridges is named. They go into the group of 49 players. What's interesting, and we'll see how this rule is digested more, who's not included is Victor Wembanyama, because he's a rookie, and B, he has not been selected as an All-Star or as an All-NBA player. It will be interesting if San Antonio does rest him, if the league all of a sudden says, you know what? He's not a star player, but we consider him a star. You know what? Mikal Bridges, you're not a star player, but you played for Team USA and you were the best player. Oh, let me just grab this. That is not considered a star, but in our perspective, we consider you a star. Now, that's the gray area, and we'll see if the league manipulates the language as far as the criteria for a star player. So let's go to the video. I loved Warner Wolf growing up. What are the new rules? Okay? 5 different things here. It's important to know there was already a player resting policy that started in the 2017-18 season. The league basically could fine teams if they rested a player for nationally televised games here. The rules were very loose, right? These rules are, man, this is like, boop, boop, boop. This is like going in the military here, man. It's one after another. Up to at least $100,000. They prohibited teams from resting players or resting players for away games. Very broad. Now, here are the rules. We call it the PPP, Player Participation Policy. No more than 1 star player is unavailable for the same game. So this impacts teams that have multiple star players. Hello, Boston. Jaylen Brown. Jason Tatum. You are not resting these two players at the same time. If the Celtics play the Miami Heat on a Tuesday night and Jason Tatum, you feel you need to rest, you can rest him as long as Jaylen Brown is playing. So you cannot rest players. So keep an eye on Phoenix. Certainly keep an eye on Minnesota. Gobert, Towns, Edwards, Conley. Keep an eye on Golden State, Curry, Wiggins, Green, that group there. There are teams that have two or more to keep an eye on. So you cannot rest two star players in the same game. National TV and in-season tournament games. Okay? Example, Phoenix plays in Portland on November 21st. The next night, they play Golden State on ESPN. That is a back-to-back game. You are not resting Devin Booker for the ESPN game here. Okay? The only exception is if there is a back-to-back game that is deemed national TV or in season. I have to look through the schedule. I don't think there is. The gray area is, how does the league look? I'm going to pause this. How does the league look at NBA TV? Certainly is at a national TV game if it's being carried on the Yes Network or one of these regional networks here. So they will make an exception if it is a back-to-back on national TV or in season, as far as a player allowed to sit out. You got to balance between star players and home and road games. So what does that mean? Last season, Curry, Thompson, and Green sat out a home loss to Indiana. 2 nights later, the three players played in a home loss to Indiana. 3 nights later, they all sat out at Utah. That will get investigated. They will likely get fined. Teams must refrain from long-term shutdowns. Bradley Beal last year. Knee soreness. Damian Lillard last year. Calf soreness to end the season. Teams were eliminated from the postseason. The league will now investigate that. Teams must ensure that players resting for a game are present and visible to fans. That's nothing new. Here are the fines. First violation, $100,000. Second violation, $250,000. Third violation, $1.25 million. So it's plus $1 million for every violation starting with the third. And then it increases $1 million each year. So if you're a team and you're saying, you know what? We don't care about these rules. We're going to rest our players as we see fit. It's for the best interest of our team. And we're going to rest 4 violations here. So now you're looking at $2.25 million you will get fined here. Why is the NBA doing this? Okay? Television. The league is in the process of beginning negotiating a $1 billion+ national television deal. There is the gambling aspect of it. Let's not be naive here. The league is going to generate over $160 million in revenue in casinos, sports gambling here. The league has 5 objectives. Participation in a full 82-game season. Maximize star player absence in the same game. National TV and in-season tournament. Fan and public perception and promote compliance now with higher penalties. Man, I got like a scratchy throat. The league believes it is important for national TV games for star players to be on the court. We talked about what are some of the other steps that the league has enforced. Okay? 65-game criteria for you to be recognized for All NBA, Most Valuable Player, Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved, All Defensive. Okay? We have the criteria there. Jaren Jackson, for example, would not have been eligible last year for Defensive Player of the Year because he played 63 games. That was collectively bargained because that impacts the player and it impacts from a financial aspect, whether it be Supermax criteria or some of these bonuses here. How many teams are impacted? There are 25 teams that have 49 star players. So there's really only 5 teams out there. Charlotte, you're impacted. You got LaMelo Ball. Brooklyn, you're not impacted. At least we think you're not because you are impacted because you have Ben Simmons. So you can go through there. We have all the list of players who are on here. 49 players, 25 teams. Okay? 15 teams have multiples. That's important to know. Will this list change after the All-Star game? Yes, we already talked about that. If you make the All-Star game, you are now included. Are there exceptions? Now, here is important to know. Here are the exceptions. The NBA will pre-approve, but you have to send them written notification within a week by that game, within a week. Designated back-to-back allowances for players who are 35 years on opening night or have career workloads of 34,000 regular season minutes or 100,000 regular season / playoff games combined. So your list is Chris Paul, Mike Conley, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, LeBron, DeMar DeRozan, James Harden. Those guys fall under that bucket. However, that does not entail national TV games. So if you have a back-to-back game, a week from now and it's on local TV, no offense to local TV, and you want to have Kevin Durant sit out, you can get that pre-approved within a week's notice. That's important here. I'm going to give you an example. For example, the Lakers sat at Anthony Davis and LeBron in a January 30th game at Brooklyn. The two would eventually play the next night in New York. Under the PPP, the Lakers could have sought approval for James to miss the Nets game because he has played at least 34,000 regular season minutes. However, under the new rules, Davis would not be allowed to sit out the Brooklyn game if James received permission to miss the game. Remember, can't have two players out. Davis also would not be allowed to sit out the Knicks game because it was on national TV. Okay? The league also has, teams can seek out approval for the one end of the back-to-back based on prior or unusual injury history. We'll probably see this a lot with the Clippers, with Kawhi. So here's an example. The Clippers play October 31st against the Magic the night before. The next night they play the Lakers. Can you seek out approval for Kawhi to sit out the Magic game because he is coming off an injury? Okay? The league also has several other exceptions. Certainly if you're injured, personal reasons, your wife's having a baby, death in the family, rare and unusual circumstances, end of season flexibility. So what does that mean? In this scenario, the Celtics could ask the league for permission to rest Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown if they have clinched the playoff spot. They're playing the Wizards the last game of the year. They will look at certain situations like that here. Talked about Wembanyama, how it doesn't impact him, at least we think not, as far as how that goes. How many players would have been infected last year? We have listed 46 players would have been impacted last year. Certainly, what you would not have seen was, Brooklyn rest Durant, Irving, and Simmons in the December 10th game at Indiana last year. That would not have been allowed. We give different various rules, different circumstances would not have been allowed. Certainly the Mavericks, the Bulls at the end of the season. Bulls would have been interesting because DeRozan and Levine were rested. They had already clinched a spot in the play-in. They would probably have been allowed to do that if it was not a national TV game. So here's the big thing. I know we're already at like 14 minutes here. What's stopping teams from listing as players as hurt? Certainly it will come from the team's physician, who is healthy, who is injured. The league has the right to investigate and then fine the team if a player misses one or more games involving the below circumstances, misses national TV or in-season tournament game, multiple star teammates miss the game, inconsistent statement. So the team says player was injured, player in the media says, you know what, I was healthy, I just needed to rest that night. You will get dinged for that. The league also has the discretion to investigate based on pattern of one-game road absences for a star player. So you missed this game, you missed at Utah this week, you missed at Portland the following week, you missed at Sacramento the following week. They will investigate you. Long-term shutdown and then other circumstances. I think the big picture is that if you are injured, that is fine. If you are sore and you are healthy and you are tired, you are expected to play here. Certainly there's, from a team perspective, we talk about it here, like certainly teams have invested in sports science here. What does the data say about as far as the workload of a player on a back-to-back? Certainly what happens if a team says a player is healthy, he says he's not, he's sore and does not want to play. Does the team get fined? Remember, the player cannot get fined in that, so that's certainly something to keep an eye on. And certainly, everyone's going to be talking about, why don't you just shrink the schedule to 65 games? It's all about the mighty dollar. $5.7 billion projected in 23-24. We have if the season gets shrunk, BRI shrinks. That determines the salary cap. That determines player salaries here. I don't see that happening. So we did a 15-minute video. I said it was going to be short, but we have a lot in this article. You can go on ESPN.com. You can read all about it. Hopefully you have a great week. We've got a lot of things in the hopper. We got a Dame Lillard article coming out on Thursday where we look at different trade proponents. I become the GM and grade the different trades. We've got a Supermax article coming out finally on Friday. We've got a Giannis article coming out, the future of Giannis, next week. So we've got a lot of things coming your way. Training camp article for all 30 teams. That will come out soon. I am on team. I have 3 teams left. So a lot of things are starting to pick up. You guys have a great Wednesday.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.